and they would only let Beanie sell so many records. And that was it. And they wouldn't push it no more. But Beanie, you couldn't be bigger than JayZ on JayZ's label.
You wanted to sign Beanie.
Yeah.
And Jay wouldn't release him.
If it got to go down, it's gonna go down. I'ma bust your all the way around the board. That's just how I am. When you cross that line to the point where I got to move out, no hesitation, dog. It's to be. He understand that.
The beef between Beanie Sigel and JayZ is pretty well known, from claims of betrayal to accusations that Jay stopped Beanie from securing major deals, among other things.
Would you be willing, and that's the part that people don't, would you be willing to be responsible for his whereabouts? And after all that good and he said no.
But if you ask 50 Cent, things could have gone way left for Jay. See, Beanie wasn't just a beast on the mic, he had serious street ties too, which is why they called him the Broad Street Bully.
In case get out of line, it's still there, but you know, gotta stay agile. You know what I mean? Gotta stay agile, just in case. You know what I mean? You know, just test you when your gun go on.
You down for that knuckle game, huh?
All day, I do that first. That's first things first. You know what I mean? Watch what you say out your mouth.
So in a way, Jay might have dodged a bullet. Let's get into it. 50 stands with Beanie. So over time, Beanie and 50 Cent built more than just mutual respect. They built a business relationship, and they also shared a common enemy, JayZ. Now, Beanie and Jay had their issues brewing beneath the surface for a while, but it all really exploded after Beanie got out of jail in 2005. That's when things started getting loud. Not long after, Beanie dropped a diss track aimed directly at Jay called "What You Talkin' About? I'm Not Your Average Cat," and let's just say he wasn't holding back. One of the most memorable lines from the track? "I'm a grown man, I don't sit on dudes' laps. I ain't looking for no gifts out of Santa Claus's sack." That was a direct response to Jay's earlier jab on "What We Talkin' About." But that wasn't all. He accused Jay of calling the cops on him just because he showed up in the front row at the Blueprint 3 concert. He also aired out his hurt over the fact that Jay never came to see him while he was locked up doing his year in a day. Then came another line. "I was a fly on the wall, ish I witnessed. I can say ish that make B look at you different." Beanie would then go on Philly's 100.3 the same day the track dropped, and he let it all out. He expressed how disappointed he was with Jay and the Rockefeller camp. Meanwhile, he gave props to 50 Cent, saying that 50 actually handled his artists with more fairness and transparency than Jay ever did. After a few days, Beanie popped up on another Philly radio station, Power 99, but this time he wasn't alone. 50 Cent pulled up with him, which only added more fuel to the fire and got fans talking heavy about Beanie possibly joining G-Unit.
The rebuttal with JayZ in his interview at Toronto, everything, like I'm saying, people think I'm just speaking out because I'm in the position that I am and I ain't put no music out, whatever, like.
And during that interview, it came out that 50 had actually offered Beanie a whopping $800,000 to officially sign with G-Unit after he got out of prison. But according to both of them, JayZ shut the whole thing down. 50 went on to talk about JayZ's version of business wasn't really business at all. Beanie thought they were family, but Jay didn't move like it when things got tough.
Look, I think he has good intentions, Jay, but he's using a traditional corporate business model. And I think the only place that he really went wrong is saying La Familia, like we family.
Fast forward, Beanie and 50 dropped a joint track called "I Go Off," which many believed was another jab at Jay. It had some aggressive lyrics right out the gate. 50 opens the track with, "I'll give you something to talk about, come around me frontin', I'll air you out." Then Beanie jumps in with some heavy bars like "Walk up on dudes and run them down" and "Won't stop till your box lowered to the ground, put you in an urn, your bones are burned." It was exactly what you'd expect from Beanie in full Broad Street bully mode. Now, Beanie would later walk it back a bit and say that the track wasn't really aimed at JayZ. He admitted that while he wasn't dissing Jay on track, 50 definitely was, since 50 and Jay have always had that weird tension. Beanie did end up officially rocking with G-Unit for a while, but it didn't last forever. Eventually, he moved on to do his own thing. How it started. So what really went down between Beanie Sigel and JayZ? To understand the full picture, you gotta rewind a bit, back to when Beanie first joined Rockefeller. At the time, the label was just starting to heat up, but nobody could have predicted how big it was about to get. And right before Rockefeller skyrocketed to legendary status, Beanie Sigel came through and signed on. The stars really lined up for him. His debut album, The Truth, dropped in 2000 and instantly made waves, with 150,000 copies sold in the first week. It didn't just introduce Beanie to the world, it solidified him as one of the hottest new voices in the game. He had that gritty, no-nonsense style that made people sit up and listen. But there was something else about Beanie that followed him everywhere: his reputation in the streets. Unlike a lot of artists who left the block behind once the fame came in, Beanie kept one foot in and one foot out. Beanie street cred. And that reputation was backed up on more than one occasion. One story that shows just how loyal and street-savvy Beanie was happened in 2002. Kanye West, who was still new to the Rockefeller family and fresh off getting his first rock chain, decided to hit up a spot in Philly with his crew for some late-night eats. As they were sitting there, a group of guys approached them. They were smiling, looking friendly, but their intentions were far from it. These dudes were planning to rob Kanye and his crew once they left the restaurant. Kanye, not being from Philly and clearly sensing something was off, decided to call up Beanie. It didn't take long. Within minutes, Bean showed up with a squad of his own.
He wasn't being paranoid. They had chairs pulled up to his table where he was eating at with his friends, and they wasn't eating.
Oh.
Yeah. So when I got there, I asked Kanye, yo, do you know this guy right here? It was like, nah, I just pulled the chair from him, And Kanye had his jewelry tucked in, like, take your chain out.
The would-be robbers didn't stand a chance. Whatever they had planned ended as soon as Beans walked through the door, making it clear Kanye was off limits. That's just the kind of person Beanie was. He looked out for his people, no questions asked. But Beanie didn't just have Kanye's back in dangerous situations. He also played a part in helping Kanye craft his identity as an artist. According to Kanye himself, it was Beanie who came up with the now iconic nickname JayZ. That's a huge deal if you think about how much that name has become part of Kanye's brand.
How you owe him money though? I don't understand.
Because he made up the name Yeezy. He used to call me Yeezy.
But eventually, it caught up with him. By 2005, Beanie's double life started to unravel. He ended up getting sentenced to a year in jail, and the timing couldn't have been worse. While he was behind bars, everything around him started to shift. Beanie versus JayZ. Rockefeller Records, the once unstoppable label he helped build, was crumbling. JayZ and Dame Dash, the two giants who co-founded the label, were beefing heavy. Their partnership, which had been the backbone of the whole movement, completely fell apart, and with that, the label began to split right down the middle. You were either Team Jay or Team Dame. When Beanie finally got out of jail, he came back to a totally different landscape. Rockefeller wasn't the same anymore. Beanie had returned to a ship that was already halfway sunk, and to make matters worse, his own crew, State Property, had already picked their side. Most of them stayed loyal to JayZ. In interviews, Beanie made it clear that he wasn't feeling Jay at the time. He even said he was leaning towards signing with Dame Dash and Big Spurk's new venture, Dame and Dash Music Group. Beanie claimed he had a stronger personal relationship with Dame and Biggs than he ever did with Jay. He explained, "I've never been around Jay on an off day. It ain't like I made a choice of running with Dame Biggs or Dame and Biggs held me down through my whole trial. It's not that. I would be a sucker if I said I signed with Dame and Dash Music Group because they did that for me. It's love. You see how we chillin' now, this ain't about no business." Still, Beanie didn't want to pick sides in the Rockefeller Civil War. Despite his feelings about Jay, he clarified that he wasn't trying to throw himself into the middle of the conflict. Instead, he reopened talks with Rockefeller and eventually decided to stay with the label. In 2006, Beanie officially re-signed with Rockefeller and got back to work on his music. He started recording on his fourth studio album, The Solution, and by 2007, he was back with a new single, All the Above, featuring R. Kelly. The song debuted at number 83 on the US R&B charts, and when The Solution dropped later that year, it made its way to number 37 on the Billboard charts. It looked like Beanie was trying to regain his footing, but cracks were already starting to show. The reality was that Beanie's career, and really the careers of most Rockefeller artists who weren't JayZ, was on a downward spiral. Many industry insiders have since spoken about what went wrong during that time, and a lot of fingers point back to Jay. Comedian TK Kirkland shared a story he heard from a producer who worked with Rockefeller. According to this producer, there was an unspoken rule at the label. No artist could be allowed to outshine JayZ. If your success started creeping too close to his, the brakes would be applied hard.
And they would only let Beanie sell so many records. And that was it. And they wouldn't push it no more. But Beanie, you couldn't be bigger than JayZ on JayZ's label.
For Beanie, that meant his albums weren't pushed as hard as they could have been. Even when he delivered solid projects, they never got the full marketing and promotional backing needed to reach their full potential. And it wasn't just TK Kirkland saying this. Dame Dash himself has also hinted at similar sabotage. Dame claimed that if Beanie had signed with him instead of re-upping with Jay, he had big plans to take Beanie's career to new heights.
When Beans chose to go with Jay, that one hurt. Because I'd done a lot and prepared. I chose State Property over Rockware, but it almost like he tricked Beans to shelf him and his life up to me doing that. But I had him.
Beanie Sigel himself has opened up about some personal moments that shaped his life and career, especially when it came to his relationship with JayZ. He mentioned how JayZ influenced his approach to writing music, specifically noting that JayZ, who is known for not writing his lyrics down, encouraged Beanie to adopt the same style. This change was significant for Beanie, altering his creative process.
Do you write?
No.
Oh, you don't write?
No. I picked that up from Jay. He made me not write.
One of the most painful moments in their relationship came in 2003 when Beanie was battling serious legal troubles. JayZ showed up for him in court and spoke on his behalf, but he made it clear that he wouldn't take responsibility for keeping Beanie out of trouble. For someone like Beanie, who had looked up to Jay as a brother figure, it was a crushing blow. "I never been crushed like that ever in my life," Beanie admitted later. "That effed me up. That took away a lot of S that I thought we had. Like, that's big bro." This moment left Beanie reeling. It wasn't just about the case, it was the realization that the bond they thought they had wasn't as strong as he believed. It was a turning point in their relationship, one that left a scar on Beanie's trust. Beanie self-sabotage. Now, while a lot of people like to push the idea that JayZ purposely held Beanie Sigel back, not everyone buys into that narrative. In fact, there are quite a few fans and insiders who feel like Jay actually did a lot for Beanie. Jay signed him to Rockefeller right when the label was blowing up, gave him major features on songs, put him in the right rooms, and helped push his music out there. He didn't just bring him into the circle, he put him on the front lines. But even with all that backing, at some point, Beanie's own decisions started working against him more than anything else. Truth is, Beanie Sigel was his own worst enemy. As talented as he was, he just couldn't seem to stay out of trouble. His street life kept creeping back in, and it slowly began to drown out the music, the business opportunities, and even the fan love. Take 2006, for example. Beanie was the victim of a shooting during what was reported to be an attempted robbery. It was serious, but he managed to escape and drive himself to the hospital. But even before that, he was already dealing with legal drama. Just a month prior, he had gotten out of jail after serving time for failing to pay child support. It was like every time he caught a break, something else would pull him back down. And it didn't stop there. In 2009, Beanie got arrested again, this time in New Jersey for drug possession. Then in 2010, the problems got even worse. He was hit with federal charges, 3 counts for failing to pay taxes, and over $1 million in income. That case alone landed him in a 25-month prison sentence. And just 2 weeks before he was supposed to turn himself in to start that sentence, he got arrested again. This time it was in Philly, and it wasn't just for a minor infraction. The charges were serious: drugs, weapons, and conspiracy. Once again, Beanie was staring down the barrel of even more jail time. It was like the streets wouldn't let go of him, or maybe, deep down, he didn't want to let go of the streets. So by September 2012, Beanie was locked up, serving time for the tax charges. But because of that Philly arrest right before he went in, they tacked on another 23 months. He was supposed to be focusing on his music and building his legacy, but instead, he spent some of his most critical years behind bars. Finally, in August 2014, he was released and sent to a halfway house to start over. There was little hope that maybe he'd bounce back, but life had another curveball waiting. Just 4 months later, Beanie got shot again, this time in New Jersey, and it was bad. He had to undergo emergency surgery, and the injuries were so severe that he ended up losing one of his lungs. His voice changed, his body changed, and his momentum was completely gone. He had everything going for him at one point. He was right there at the top with Rockefeller when they were untouchable. He had acting gigs lined up, his name was buzzing in hip-hop, he had access to some of the hottest clothing brands through his connections, and he even played a role in shaping Kanye West's identity. Kanye even reportedly offered Beanie $50 million as a thank you for giving him that nickname. And what did Beanie do? He turned it down. Now, whether that's the full story or not, it's hard not to raise an eyebrow at that decision, especially when you hear that his current net worth is estimated at just $100,000. That's wild for someone who once had the game in a chokehold. And it's not just the money. Physically, Beanie's not the same either. Losing a lung really did a number on him. He's noticeably thinner now, and his voice, once his trademark, isn't what it used to be. It's honestly sad to see someone who had everything right there, in reach, fall so hard. By all measures, Beanie should be a multi-millionaire today, living comfortably, maybe mentoring the next generation or just enjoying the rewards of his contributions to the culture. But instead, it feels like he burned through his chances trying to hold on to a street persona that gave him nothing but losses in the long run. Now, sure, some people still think JayZ played a role in Beanie's decline. That's a whole conversation on its own. But there's another take that's just as real. Maybe Jay saw what was coming. Maybe he recognized that Beanie wasn't going to change, and he chose to distance himself before he got dragged down with him. Because if there's one thing you can't deny about Jay, is that he knew how to evolve. He knew exactly when to walk away from the street life and focus on building something bigger, something that would last. Beanie, on the other hand, couldn't seem to let go of that lifestyle, and it seems like he had to learn those lessons the hard way.